All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, Insane Layer 13, and today we're about to get underway for the first of what will be 3 stints for SEC's Watkins Glen Enduro. I will be able to cover stint 1 and 2, then later on I will be covering a NASCAR race here that will also be taking place at, well, I believe the one will be at Laguna Seca, but be aware, Road America is going to be a little bit different. If you were with us 2 months ago when we came down to Watkins Glen, there was rain in the middle of one of the stints. Today, that's going to be a completely different story. We are not just looking at a little bit of rain in one of the stints. Rain is going to be a constant issue for stints 1, 2, and 3 today. Another thing to consider is that after the Le Mans event was canceled last month due to officials not being able to set aside time from their own lives to get running, we've ended up with a bit of a scenario where we have seen a significant contraction in the field size. So with a much smaller field today, you're likely going to see less cases of drivers getting completely screwed over by traffic. You're likely going to see people running in roughly what their actual performance locations are going to be in today's race. Real quickly, let's look over the championship point standings as they currently are on the sheet. I'm assuming that everything is properly updated the way it needs to be right now. Leading the championship right now is the NDL Black Pearl team that have Cavatro, Togue, and Avocado on it. Nope, sorry, I got that wrong. Leading is the NDL Lobster team with NDL Beats, NDL Wawa, and NDL Pipes. They are sitting with 152 points right now. After that, second is the NDL Black Pearl team with Cavatro, Togue, and Avocado. They have 144 points. Then you have to go down a little bit until you get to third in points. That is the NDL Rosso Corsa team. They have NDL Hot Dog, NDL Dindu, and NDL Micro. They all have 121 points across each other. Then you get to fourth place. That would be the ESV Motorsports team with ESV Green, ESV Karts, and ESV Bolt. They have 113 points. And then fifth in the championship point standings right now would be the TNR Esports Team Aces entrance. They have the drivers of TNR Surf, TNR Geekin, and TNR Zax. They are sitting at 106 points. There are lots of other teams that have other amounts of points right now, but in the main championship focus, that's the one I want to focus on. Also, the sheet is not super well organized right now, so because of that, I am not really rushing to try and manually pick out the rest of the grid here. And remember, this is a 2-hour race. As they come to the line with a rolling start, they will immediately get underway here at Road America, and we are on Toad, Dindu, drag racing down the straightaway, and they're going to be at this for 2 full hours, no breaks or anything, and they're going to have to be very aware of the wet weather as they fly into turn number 1. And around the outside goes NDL Toad, Dindu goes back in second position, EXR Unfolded currently is in third. Now we see the field going through turns 3. Big wet section here, and they slide. Okay, so maybe I was wrong. Maybe they aren't going right as they cross the start-finish line. There seems to be several drivers who have stopped farther back on the circuit, and then these drivers here. And that moment of confusion is going to cause some problems potentially for some of our top runners. A big thing to consider in today's event is that with this race being in the rain, and it looks like they're backing out, so it looks like they're going to have to restart, try a second attempt at this. A big thing to consider for today's event is that we will have rain intermittently across all 3 stints today, so being able to adapt to when the rain comes and leaves is going to be very important. Also remember, this series, the SEC Enduro Series, they run incredibly high tire wear rates. In all dry races, we have seen stints where pitting up to 7 times a race ends up being the strategy. Now, normally what that means is that you'll have some fights between drivers trying to go medium, 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 or drivers just trying to run a bunch of soft stints, or drivers who are doing a bunch of soft stints with 1 medium, or a bunch of medium stints with 1 soft. But now that we're looking at rain, the strategies flatten out quite a little bit. There's not going to be as much worrying about what the strategy is, at least not as much as we see. Instead, you'll see drivers trying to do a 1-lap early overcut or undercut. If you get onto the wet tires a lap early and accurately predict the weather turning wet, you'll be in a much better position. Likewise, if you get off of the wet tires as the track is dried out a lap early, you run the risk of sliding off track, but if you don't slide off track, you could actually end up gaining a significant amount of time, especially with a lap here around Road America being a full 2 minutes long. Another thing to consider is that with how flat the strategy is that that's to be added with the fact that the actual transition periods in races with these 3-stint weathers are going to be up in the air. You can see rain come and go at very unexpected times, and even once the rain goes away, it will still take a few laps for the track itself to dry out. So not very many people actually have a solid idea as to when the track itself will dry out and when to swap over, and likewise, you're not necessarily going to be able to anticipate the track going wet. The track will start getting wet, and you have to immediately react. Also remember, there are no yellow flags in the series. It is all green all the way through today. So please be aware that throughout the entirety of today's event, there is going to be a lot of reactivity. Okay, so real quickly, assuming that they all end up lining up on the circuit, I'll go through and give everyone a look as to what the field is set up as. Interesting thing to consider, the Ford Mustang GT3 is now the big car, the big dominant car in the series. A few months ago it had been the Mercedes, but now we are down to only a single Mercedes. It does, at least to me, seem like a lot of the Mercedes drivers are the ones that have stepped away from the series. But we are now looking at 4 different Ford Mustang GT3s. Interesting thing about that, though, is that none of those Mustangs have qualified in the top half of the field in today's running. As they load onto the circuit once more. All right, here we are. So we'll see them probably move up and adjust their ordering in a little bit here. But the field is going to be gridded very close to what their starting positions are. So at the head of this group is... No, that's not what I wanted. At the head of this group is NDL Dindu in the Ferrari, followed by NDL Togue. That is in the Aston Martin, and EXR Unfolded in the Dodge. 4th place is NWR Zula in the Chevy. NWR Scorpio is going to be in 5th, followed by NDL Circle Jerk. Remember, CJ, I do occasionally call him Circle Jerk. Just do keep that in mind. 7th place is HYR Warner, followed by NWR Mav, NWR Berkey, and P1R Alto. Those are your four Ford Mustangs. Then you have Beastballer back here in one of the Chevys. ZR Higheye, they are in one of the BMW M4s. ZR Villa is back there in the Mercedes, and NWR Arkina is going to be at the back of the grid. But I don't believe they're racing. I believe they're just organizing the event here. And we will start racing once they go under the Sargento Bridge. So we're looking at a much smaller field than normal here today. We're only looking at about 13 cars. So it's going to be a lot more pace rather than driver versus driver action deciding this event. And we are underway here at Road America, and the top 2 immediately get away. And therein lies the big flaw with Unfolded. EXR Unfolded will be very good in the corners, but he just does not have the straightaway speed. The Dodge Vipers are very torquey, but that torque falls away very fast here. For Unfolded, it's going to be a matter of hoping that the overall grip advantage he's hoping the Dodge has will get him near the front. At the front, though, it is NDL Togue, who has already gone by. NDL didn't do. So we see Aston Martin to the front. Here comes the Ferrari. It looks to the outside, but you don't want to go side by side here if you can help it. EXR Unfolded went wide there, and he's not the only one. That is NWR Zula in the Chevy, who went wide there in turn 6, and now he has fallen well down into the midfield behind one of the Mustangs. So now Didn't Do has fallen to third as EXR Unfolded coming around the outside. Again, Unfolded has these really wide tires. The Vipers are very, very good on grip, very good on initial torque, but they do not have straight line speed. If Unfolded wants to make moves, he needs to do it now before they start coming back through Sector 1. He's going to complete the overtake around the outside of the Ferrari, and EXR Unfolded now up into the second position. He starts trying to close in on Togue. Togue's going to defend the inside. Unfolded trying to go around the outside here. Who's going to have more grip under braking? Well, it seems very obvious the answer was EXR Unfolded. He's going to go around the outside. Togue's not giving up yet, but now Unfolded has the inside line. He slide jobs that Aston Martin, and Unfolded goes from third to first in only about half of a lap's time. He comes around the final corner. The inside line is open for Togue to try and get back by, but the Dodge has superior torque. He's through. Unfolded leads, and now here comes Didn't Do to the inside. The top three all on top of each other. Togue going around the outside. Didn't Do wants to make it to the inside. They're going to be three wides. They go down the front straightaway. Someone's got to back out as they come down into turn number one. And Didn't Do on the inside is going to get around them all. Not quite though. Togue is able to maintain momentum on exit, and now they're three wide again as they go down into turn number three here. Side by side by side, but Unfolded's the first one to back out this time. So now it's Togue who goes back ahead with Didn't Do second, Unfolded third, the same order they were when they came through this corner on the first lap. Okay, so now EXR Unfolded knows that yes, he has a car that can fight, that can make overtakes, but he has no recourse against the Ferrari or against the Aston Martin when it comes to dealing with long straightaway speeds, the draft, and the just overall horsepower advantage of the Ferrari and the Aston will just destroy the Dodge. Doesn't matter how good he is when it comes to grip. So now Unfolded just needs to keep pace with these drivers, hope that they burn through their tire, and hope they burn through their fuel load faster than he does, and hope that he can maybe cut out or short fill a stop later on to go into the top spot. It is very obvious with Road America being so strict on speed focus, there's just nothing that EXR Unfolded can do to fight model against these drivers. So this time, India Didn't Do in the Ferrari holds the lead a little bit longer. Togue tries to get to the inside of Didn't Do. Didn't Do's doing a little bit more of the diving in here through the big sweeper that is the carousel as they come down into the kink, and then the run down from Canada corner is Togue right behind Didn't Do. Togue in the draft slides wide, gets that left rear tire onto the outside third, loses a bunch of momentum in the process. Unfolded has the draft on Togue. He's closing in. Does he try and go deep on the braking? Go deep move? No, he's going to back out. Didn't Do slides wide though. Togue is sliding, and Unfolded gets right up into him. Again, Unfolded is so much faster than everyone else in these corners. The Dodge is arguably the best when it comes to slow speed corners, and that's only enhanced when they come into wet weather circumstances like this. Now he puts a little bit of a bumper to Togue, looks to the inside. Togue wraps around the momentum around the outside, holds the station. The top three stay 1, 2, 3. They are pulling away from the rest of the field. Fourth place is NDL CJ. Remember, CJ is trying to fight for championship, and with the ESV team not showing up, it looks like it will be NDL on NDL on NDL action. With Didn't Do and Togue first and second, and CJ in fourth, he needs to hope that they can figure out something to get himself up near the front. He is also one of the three drivers in the only remaining BMW M8 team. If you remember, BMW M8 was the BMW entry that the series started with, but Forza Motorsport had an update about 3 to 4 months ago that brought the GT4, the M4 GT3 car. So all drivers who had the BMW M8 were given the option to swap over. Every team did except for this team. This NDL team is the holdout. They are staying with the old BMW M8 despite the fact that it's not being officially balanced or supported by the officials here, and he needs to try and figure out a way to dig deep and make something happen. So at the front, Didn't Do is starting to pull away from NDL Togue just a little bit. Togue has EXR Unfolded still running right behind him. Now let's go ahead and look at the fuel and tire wear. 81% left in the fuel tank for Didn't Do. He is at 11% on that right rear tire wear. When it comes to NDL Togue, he is running with 61% still in the tank. He's at 11.2%. I meant the left rear, sorry, not right rear. Then you get to EXR Unfolded. He is at 43% left in the tank. He is at 11% wear. So the interesting thing to consider is that of these three cars, Unfolded has significantly less fuel than the two ahead. He is likely betting on hitting early and gaining a lot of laps in. Toad got his tires into the dirt again, going through the kink, and now around the outside goes Unfolded. Unfolded will complete the overtake, and the Dodge goes up into the second spot. But again, the frustrating thing for Unfolded is that he's going to be monstrous through these corners. The Dodge has some of the best grip in these slow speed corners, and he'll have the torque to really make use of it. We'll see him open the gap bit by bit on Toad, but the moment they get onto the front straightaway, the Aston Martin, which is one of the fastest cars in a straight line, will just immediately pull in a straight line here. And now the field starts to go uphill, and there's been a driver that has gone off farther back. Is that Zula? It is Zula in the Chevy who has gone off again. No damage to the car, but he has slid off again in the final quarter and will fall to last on track. Unfolded was able to keep Toad behind him just for one straightaway this time. If he can do it for a second time, he may have a shot at seriously moving away from Indio Toad. But again, it looks like this race may come down to just trying to figure out, okay, where is the best position to be and how far can I press the fuel and tires. And in that fight, Unfolded has a massive disadvantage. He's running a little bit more than half the fuel that Dindu has, and still has about 20% more than Toad has. They go through turn, what's officially known as turn 5, and now up to turn 6 under the Corvette bridge. And it looks like Unfolded has the station on Toad. We're going to go ahead and knock out an ad break. We'll be back here shortly at Road America. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Road America. NDL Dindu leads, but Dindu has been going wide and slinging wide. The fight amongst these three has very much swung in EXR Unfolded's on track, as we see Unfolded pulling up alongside Dindu as Dindu is wide, going through the kink. And around the inside, Unfolded gets alongside Dindu, but Dindu wraps the momentum around the outside. That turns and puts the momentum back into Ferrari's favor. In the following corner, Unfolded is still right there. Does he try and go for a big dive? And while these two have been fighting, it's brought Toad back into it. Here comes Unfolded. He'll look to the inside of Dindu, but Dindu has a little bit of runoff there in the foul corner. He'll use that to get the grip under the car, put the power down, and move back in front of the Dodge. And the top three are all nose to tail, 1, 2, 3 right now as they come across the line. But how long is that going to stay? Because Toad is right there in third. And now Toad uses the draft and uses straight line speed again to pull to the inside of Unfolded. They kind of box the Dodge in there, and the Dodge is left on the outside line, not an ideal lane, but Toad does not seem to be able to just outright destroy Unfolded on the inside line here. There's just not enough grip to make it work. The big thing that really seems to have it is actually taking the wider line for these corners. So the big advantage with having the wider line is that A, you're not herking on the steering wheel nearly as much, you're a lot smoother, which will give you a little bit more ability to maintain grip, and then B, running that wider line, there is more track available that you can use to try and find grip on the cars, and it seems like the wider outside lines are the more advantageous lines to take in a side-by-side fight at this stage of the event, just because of how much rain there is on circuit right now. Now, while this is going on, there is a fight going for 4th, 5th, and 6th. Although 6 has kind of lost touch with this, but NWR's 4th, they'll find with NDL CJ. Now remember, CJ in that BMW inmate, he is one of the championship contenders, but the other two championship contenders are ranked 1st and 3rd right now. So CJ is losing a ridiculously large amount of time right now, and with everyone running roughly the same tire compound, it may just come down to who has the most reactive strategy or the most flexible strategy. And what does that mean to have a flexible strategy? It means you would be in NDL Dindu's place and have the largest amount of fuel in the tank. That way, if the rain ends up going away early, you can go ahead and react and not have to worry. If the rain goes away right now, sure, everyone could go ahead and jump and throw on some dry tires, but if we keep seeing rain another 15, 16 minutes later into the event, that's another 7 to 8 laps from now. Only a few drivers are going to have a fuel tank long enough to stay on track that entire time and basically cut out an entire pit stop, because there's not really any way that you can maintain a fast speed on wet weather tires on a dry track, especially here at Road America, which, while it's not the most tire-intensive circuit on the schedule, is a very tire-intensive circuit because you get such incredible straight-line speeds, and then you have to really jump onto the brakes very aggressively on the end of these big straightaways. Fight for a second again. Unfolded on the outside, Toad on the inside. As you can see, Unfolded kind of lost the draft off of that Ferrari, and it leaves Unfolded under very high risk from being attacked by Toad. And look at that, the Aston Martin is going to get back by Unfolded. And again, the other thing to consider is that while Unfolded has an overall pace advantage, he has two things working against him. One, he is underfueled way more than the two cars ahead of him on track. And number two, that Dodge does not have straight line speed, at least not compared to everything else. It is at a massive straight line speed disadvantage. Now, he can negate most of that disadvantage if he's in the draft or if the car ahead makes a mistake, but otherwise, Unfolded could be potentially running a lap faster, but this is not going to matter if, with a little bit of drafting help, the other cars around him can make up a second or a second and a half fields on the 3 straightaways on this circuit. So Unfolded is really trying to dig deep and pull himself out of this frustrating position right now. I also want to go ahead and give a real quick shout out to Beastballer. Beastballer has had a few moments where he's gone off circuit today, but all things considered, normally this is one of the first drivers we see going a lap down in one of these events. Right now, though, Beastballer is actually doing a good job maintaining some pace with the leaders. Now, he likely will go a lap down later in the event based on how pace is showing out right now, but overall, though Beastballer has a big slide there out of turn 6, I do think that Beastballer is going to be able to maintain not only a higher points haul by finishing higher due to fewer cars being here, but I think he may have a possibility of being the only driver a lap down, or maybe if things go right, not going a lap down at all. So Beastballer still showing up is going to see some positive results for today's event. Of the Mustang entrants, the highest of all of our Mustangs right now is this driver right here, HYR Warner. This is a Mustang, right? I want to make sure I'm not talking at my rear here. Yeah, that's a Mustang. So HYR Warner is the highest running of all 4 Mustangs. Remember, 4 Mustangs entered into today's event, but none of them qualified in the top 6 positions. Warner is the only Mustang to have actually gained overall right now, but he has a bit of a distance penalty right now. All right, down the front straightaway, Toad defends the inside. Unfolded is on the outside. But with that extra straight line speed advantage, Toad uses it to go deeper. He tries to slide down in front of Unfolded, but with the wet weather, he ends up sliding wide and gives the inside to Unfolded. And now Unfolded, look at how much deeper the dodge is able to go into the corner. When the car that he's fighting misses the corner altogether, Unfolded clears Toad, but they're onto another long straightaway, and Toad immediately is able to take advantage of superior straight line speed. He's pulling away down the straightaway, and he'll complete the overtake before they even get to the braking zone. Now Toad has to jump onto the brakes very aggressively. Unfolded has to be reactive and not hit Toad from behind. But yes, for the moment, Toad holds station on Unfolded. And while these two are fighting, Dindu keeps trying to scoot away, but Dindu has not been able to put together absolutely clean laps. We keep seeing him make small mistakes, slide off, have bit of hiccups now and again, and that pushes him back into the grasp of Toad and Unfolded right now. But Dindu, in the Ferrari, the lone Ferrari entrant in today's event, still maintaining position. Now they go through the carousel once again. This is one of the corners where Unfolded is incredibly competent, because this dodge is going to be very good in this corner, but he has a little bit of a slide on exit. Still, he has the draft on Toad. Yeah, Toad ends up sliding out here in the kink. Unfolded could get in line. No. Toad keeps it on track. No big slides this time. Unfolded runs in the draft of the Aston Martin. Not quite nose to tail as they dive down into Canada corner. Now Unfolded shows up. He's going to come try and make something happen around the outside. Now he dives in, tries to cross over as Toad has a bit of a slide. But now Unfolded will be trapped on the outside line. He tries to herk it in with a very, very tight exit. Toad is a little bit more rounded out. Toad maintains his position, but Unfolded had a better run out. But again, it's a big straightaway now, and the straight line speed advantage of Yasin means that he'll be able to stay here. There's nothing that Unfolded can do to fight back. P1R also gain a little bit of distance penalty. How much fuel does Unfolded have left in the tank? He's at 21% right now. For second place, NDL Toad, the amount of fuel he's at, 34% right now. And for Dindu, your leader, as they go side by side for second, just behind, he is at 48%. And Unfolded has completed the overtake on Toad. But again, big straight line section. This is where Toad can go ahead and make any move he wants pretty much with impunity. He'll choose to make a dive on the inside. There's nothing that Unfolded can do. This time, though, Toad will not complete the overtake by the braking zone. How deep does Unfolded go into braking? Does he try to go around the outside to get the position back? That's exactly what he does. Again, with the way these cars are set up and how wet this track is, you want to be on the outside line so you have more time to find grip in with your tires and put the power down. And it looks like that's the big thing that's really helping out here for Unfolded. It's going to be very different. Once the track starts drying up, you will see the advantageous line in a side-by-side fight between two cars go to being the inside line, because the fastest way around will be better and grip won't be nearly as much of an issue. But as it is right now, the outside lane is incredibly important. Toad gets right behind Unfolded, gives him a little bit of a push. Unfolded slides wide. Toad pulls up behind Unfolded, puts the bumper to him once, twice as they go into the kink. But both of them will stay on circuit. Unfolded actually got a better run out of the kink, but Toad now gets the power, and he has the draft off the dodge ahead. Does he try and make a big late second dive in the Canada corner? No, he's a little bit more mature than that. He has the restraint. The dodge is wide, though. He missed his braking zone. Toad on the inside, and he's biased. Unfolded completely misses the braking zone Canada corner. Now Unfolded hits the grass on the inside. Now he's going to line up, try and make a move to the inside. He backs out of it, realizing he could not make the corner. Toad goes back into second. Now, as Unfolded drops tires into the dirt again and is just going to try and hold on to Toad's draft, we are seeing Indio Dindu open up to one of the biggest leads we have seen anyone have all day today. A little bit farther back in the field. This is NWR Zula. Zula has had a few moments earlier today where he slid off, but he was trying to fight back. He now comes to the inside of one of the BMW M4s of ZR High Cranky drag race between BMW and the Chevrolet. And we've seen throughout the entire series, the Chevys are very, very good in power, but they are so massively heavy. They burn through their fuel load. at a really quick rate as well, and they burn through their tire life at a quick rate as well. Road America is probably the last circuit on the schedule with the Le Mans event that should have taken part last month getting canceled. Road America is really the last event that you could really bring home a good result on the back of the natural strengths of the Corvettes. Zula really struggling with that. Right now it seems like it's NWR Scorpio who's having a better run, trying to make something happen with the Chevys. P1R Alto is trying to hang out in these guys' draft. Oh, and he hits High and Cranky from behind, and Cranky goes off. He goes deep off the circuit. No damage to his car. What about Bertie? Bertie gets by. What about P1R Alto? Alto, who is the one who hit him from behind in the Mustang. There's no damage. But Alto just completely missed the braking zone and slammed into High and Cranky from behind, and both of them went off circuit there in turn 5. And that will push Alto back to 12th on the board. That also ends up working out very well for NWR Zula because now he has no one around him to fight with. But Haya Cranky is going to be incredibly livid with that. He is now forced back to 11th behind one of the other Mustangs of NWR Mav. All right, meanwhile, for the fight for second is still Togue versus Unfolded, but Unfolded is not going to have a whole lot of fuel left. He's at 14% right now for Togue in the Aston Martin. He is at 25% right now. And NWR Scorpio, who is fourth, is coming into the pits now. With only 6.9% left, he probably had one more lap in him, but that was it. He says, screw it, I'm coming in now. But look at the rate of tire wear that he's been going through. He's not even at, he's almost at 50. What about NDL Dindu, our leader? He is at 46.8% on that left rear tire. And mind you, the rain still has not let up yet. How deep do you want to go into a stint on these tires? You see ZR Haya Cranky going ahead and making a pit stop as well. We're going to knock out an ad break. When we come back, we might catch some of our leaders making their first stops of the day. Don't go away. We'll be back here shortly at Road America. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you back here to Road America. ADL Dindu has screwed away from the rest of the field, but all three of the drivers at the front have all shown some weakness, and one of the big things to consider is that the wet weather will help extend the life of these rainy tires, but it's not going to keep them alive forever. We are right on board with the XR Unfolded. Over the last lap, both Unfolded and Togue had big moments where they both slid off track. And look at that left rear tire wear as it clicks over to 50%. These drivers are not going to be able to stay out on track for much longer because those tires are burning up. Out 10th place, NWR Mav is going to come ahead, come into the pits, and make his first stop of the day. So even though all these drivers are going really deep into the runs on these tires due to these wet weather conditions. They're not able to just go forever. They are dealing with some significant tire fall off. The question may be, how deep and how confident are you and how deep can you go on the wet weather tires? One thing this might help out though is EXR unfolded. He doesn't have a lot of fuel left. This will likely be the lap he has to come in for pit stops. I think it is incredibly likely that we will end up seeing EXR unfolded pit this lap, and because the rain still has not let up, EXR unfolded basically has to blink earlier than this driver who's tied for second, NPL Togas. He slides right again, and the second lap in a row. That is the second time that EXR unfolded has had a big clip from the rear of the car as they come out of the team and now fly down the Canada corner once again. I'm going to go ahead. I really want to go ahead and give you a bit of a audio description of what the difference is between how a race car is going to feel when you have the front tires falling off versus the rear tires falling off. So, within Forza Motorsport and within racing in general, typically it is the front tires that you're putting more wear on. What that means is that as the tires burn up, as the life of the tires gets shorter and shorter, it becomes harder to make turns around the corners. You have to brake earlier, you have to hook into the corners more aggressively, and Dindu is pitted out of the lead. Unfolded is also pitted out of the lead, but Togue is going to stay out for a little bit longer. So Togue stays out for another lap, even though his tires are at 52%. He says, screw this, I want to go deeper into the run. So we definitely want to keep an eye on him, because how much time is he going to lose? If he does not lose much time at all, this could be a benefit, but with how much his assets is sliding around, that could have a lot of impact. But anyways, as I was saying, when it comes to the difference between front tire wear and rear tire wear in this game, typically, and in real life and in most games, typically as your front tire wears off, it makes it harder for you to turn into the corners, and it makes it harder to hold your line. You basically have to go slower or brake earlier and turn in earlier to make corners. That's the big compromise that you have as your front tires wear off. When your rear tires are going off, it's a little bit different. Rear tire wear means that you have to be a lot smoother and a lot more cautious, putting the power down and getting out of the corners. It also means that because you have to be slower, getting onto the full throttle, you will find less and less top speed at the end of the straightaways. That is a big difference from front tire wear to rear tire wear. Why do I bring this up when everyone across the field is dealing with rear tire wear and not a lot of front tire wear? Well, the normal setups in these games come down to this. If you have an advantage when it comes to the life of the front tires, you can herc in more into the corners and potentially get a lap time advantage. If you have more advantage when it comes to rear tire wear, though, it means that you can go harder on the straightaways, which makes you a lot better in driver versus driver fights. In Forza Motorsport, the majority of the meta tunes are maximum front downforce, minimum rear downforce, because you want to preserve front tire life as much as possible, because normally the rear tire life is not that bad. But right now, in the rain, that scenario is inverted. The rear tires are the one burning up faster than the fronts. In this scenario, we are looking at a race, though, that drivers who likely have dry weather setups on their car are going to find their handling and the way that their car goes through tires completely invert once the track starts drying up a little bit later. As we ride on board with... As we ride on board with NPL Togue, we see the rain falling is starting to let up. It is not completely let up, but it is starting to let up. Once the track starts drying up, we could be looking at a very interesting scenario where drivers who are really fast in the rain will start losing ground, and drivers who are really slow in the rain will start picking up time. Coming into the pits now is first and second NPL Togue and NPL CJ. H-Wire Warner, the highest of your Mustang drivers, will pit as well. But it is ZR Villa who's going to stay out a little bit longer right now in the Mercedes, even though that right rear is at 60%, where Villa says, screw this, I want to lead, and that's exactly what he does. ZR Villa now goes to the lead here. But I really want to see, where is Dindu going to end up in relation to Togue, and where is Unfolded going to end up in relation to Togue? Dindu will clear Togue. He is still behind NWR Zulu, who is also not yet pitted. Togue is going to be ahead of Unfolded, but Unfolded comes around the outside. They're going to be side by side as they come out of turn number one, and Togue still trying to get his tires at the temperature. Unfolded already has tires at the temperature, and it's so hard to get tires at the temperature here. In the rain, you're going to lose so much time and just try to get the tire tips up, especially for Togue. The front tires are going to be leaking out so much heat as they go down the straightaway. Togue needs to be very careful as he gets into the braking zone, but he's got the straight line speed advantage. He's going to come to the outside of Unfolded. Aston Martin versus Dodge. The fight of the day continues as they dive down into turn number 5 here, and Unfolded goes nice and deep into the brakes. They make contact, and Unfolded muscles his way back in front of Togue. Okay, but the next two corners are all going to be at the end of very short straightaways. Togue can get the tire temperatures up now, and Togue is not going to lose too much time. All things considered, Unfolded and Togue, despite pitting basically a lap apart from each other, they're going to be at basically the exact same position on track overall. Togue actually might have an overall advantage. The other thing to consider, EXR Unfolded has gotten a bit of a distance penalty. It's only 2/100ths of a mile, which is only about 100 feet worth, but still, he's gotten a penalty. Togue does not, and we have seen many events. If you remember the Watkins Glen Enduro, which I was fortunate enough to cover all three stints of, the Watkins Glen Enduro final results basically came down to a matter of dozens of feet from time penalties in the final stint. Unfolded and Togue both slide big as they go through the kinks that time. All right, so ZR Villa in the lead. NDL Dindu has muscled his way around NWR Zula, who's trying to go really deep on this set of wet weather tires. He's going to have to pit, though. He just doesn't have a lot of fuel left. What of ZR Villa? I imagine he'll be pitting shortly as well. He's at 46% still in the fuel tank, and Villa is going to stay out for another lap. I'm honestly shocked at that decision. Now, he does have maybe one more lap of life left in the tires, but he is going incredibly deep, and also this means that Villa will be... Please work. Come on. Come on. Please, tell me you can hear me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Road America. I do apologize. We had some technical difficulties, and by technical difficulties, I mean that I dropped the controller and disconnected the controller. It took me like 5 minutes to get it fixed. I do apologize for that. But while we were away, ZR Villa still has stayed out, but Villa is in a really weird position because he has still not made his first stop of the day, but his tires are about 70% wear on the rear. He is now multiple seconds a lap slower, and these drivers who are passing him are drivers who are basically way ahead of him on strategy. So while right now ZR Villa has a massive track position advantage against everyone who is basically fourth on back, he is looking at being at a significant disadvantage when it comes to overall pit stop and just pace as well. Villa just does not have any pace whatsoever because look at this tire life wear as he hits Unfolded from behind. He's at 71% on that rear tire. Those tires are just about dead. I'll give him credit for going this deep into the run, but he just does not have the pace on these worn-out wet weather tires to do anything. And at the rate it is going, Villa is going to be caught by NDL CJ and NWR Scorpio at the end of this lap. Dindu has already gone by and into the lead. It is the fight between Togue and Unfolded, and even there, that fight seems to be pretty much done. as this has gone on, Toad, who had pitted a lap later than Unfolded, now is in a position where he is at a tire advantage over Unfolded going forward in this event. And still, the rain continues to pound down here at Road America. Oh, and Unfolded drops the tire into the dirt. He spends a long time in the dirt coming out of the kink, and that will cause him to lose a significant amount of time against Toad here. Meanwhile, this is farther back in the grid. This is a three-way fight between NWR Berksy, NWR Mav, and ZR Haya Cranky. Remember, Cranky had a bit of a lock-up earlier and hit, I think it was NWR Zula from behind, and both of them went off. Haya Cranky has not been able to get back in the top 10 since then, although once we see ZR Villa go ahead and make a pit stop, I imagine that will change. Now we see Haya Cranky go to the inside of Mav, tries to complete the overtake, leaves himself open to attack as he drops the tire to the dirt. Here comes Berkey back on the outside with returning to the inside, going into the Canada corner, neck and neck as they power deep into the braking zone here. Can Cranky keep it on track? Around the outside, he is able to. Again, outside line is very important here in the lane where you're just trying to fight for the ideal amount of grip. And Cranky goes deep, coming out of the corner, and he will start to open the gap just a little bit on Mav. And all this is going to let Berkey try and open up a bit of a gap. Right now, interesting thing to consider, no one at this stage of the event has hit even 1/10 of a mile worth in distance penalties, and about half of our field has still earned no distance penalties at this stage of the event. Now, we've said this before, but remember, if you finish a stint with no distance penalties, that is a free extra point in the results. And real quickly, I want to look at ZR Villa. He might be a little bit relieved as what he has seen. Now, yes, his tires are at 76%, but I want you to look. As we ride on board, the rain has stopped falling. It is about to dry up here. Now, we don't know how long it will take to dry up, but for ZR Villa, if this is turned out properly, he will be able to jump into pit lane. He'll be able to pull out some nice fresh softs, and he could end up with a significant track position advantage over everyone who's about 6th on back. Now, I'm saying only 6th because right now, 5th place NDL CJ is just about to catch him and will likely pass him as they come down to Canada corner. But everyone behind that, Villa will end up with a significant advantage over because he has skipped the pit stop. CJ lunges, closes the gap down on ZR Villa. Villa's into the grass. The car has lost it. He has lost the car. He is into the dirt, and all the advantage he has had is gone as NWR Scorpio goes by as well. Just pushed it a little bit too far, and Villa is going to lose all the advantage that he had because those rear tires are so cooked you could not take it through the kink. He has to pit this lap. And the frustrating part is that the track is still damp, so it's going to, he ideally would want to stay out for another lap. I'm just saying that's not going to happen. This strategy of staying on these tires for a long time is just not going to work out in his favor. He has to pit now. He's got to pit. He's not. He insists on staying out even longer. Villa is actively torpedoing his entire race by insisting on staying out. He does not have that much of an advantage over the other drivers like HYR Warner or NWR Zula. He is losing time, losing so much. He needs to pit, but he is trying so hard to cut out a pit stop. And I'm going to be honest, Villa will be able to cut out a pit stop. In a sense, there's nothing physically stopping him from cutting out a pit stop, but he's going to lose so much time, so much track position, and his ability to stay on track is going to be so compromised that the advantage he's going to have is going to be completely negated, and he's going to be at a massive disadvantage, losing so much track position. He's basically going to be making this pit stop at the same time as everyone else. He's going to have no advantage over the rest of the field here. Okay, real quickly, I want to look at the fight for second position here. This is NDL Togue, and just behind him is EXR Unfolded. Togue has the tire advantage, and Unfolded has been really, really good in the rain. But Togue pitted a lap later than Unfolded, which has given him a slight tire advantage, and now he has pulled away from Unfolded enough that he is able to run away and deny Unfolded any shot at the draft. And with the rain starting to go away here, Unfolded, are we going to see him start hemorrhaging time? Is he going to start losing ground, or is that car going to come to life in the rain, in the dry? The other question is going to be NDL didn't do. If you look right now when it comes to the tire life, it is 29% on that right rear. Because again, In the rain, you typically are wearing the rear tires more because you're really struggling to find grip with those tires. Right now, that will continue, but these drivers will have to pit sooner rather than later, and when they start putting on soft tires or medium tires to go to the end of the race, you have to wonder, what is the result going to be? How is their handling going to change? Will this Ferrari of Indy Dindoo, which in dry conditions over the most of the rest of the season has been incredibly twitchy and incredibly slidey, will Dindoo be able to maintain his position at the front, or is he going to start hemorrhaging time to the likes of Indy Tog and maybe even EXR unfolded farther back? And then, in fourth place, you have the third of our three championship contending teams, NDL CJ, also sometimes called Circle Jerk. CJ in the BMW M8, the only team still in this BMW M8. They're kind of out in their own island. They're sharing no results, no feedback with any other team. They are the only ones in this car. We are not sure yet on how this car is going to handle when the track dries up. Real quickly look at this fight for a second once more. Riding on board with EXR and Full as he is closed back in on NDL Toad again here. The rain has stopped. It's been stopped for a while. The track is still a little bit damp. Who's going to blink first and jump into the pits to put new tires on? It may have been ZR Villa. Has ZR Villa elected to be the first driver to put on soft tires? Well, he's got new tires on now. He's got a full load of fuel. We're going to keep an eye on ZR Villa, but after staying out for so long, he's going to go on and go and fall back to position 12 on track. Meanwhile, we look back at the fight for the second position. As Unfolded runs behind Tog, he slides wide. He gets into the dirt again. That's the second time in 3 laps, but this time he does not lose nearly as much time to Tog. Tog may be struggling making these wet tires work on this track that is rapidly starting to dry out right now. All right, into the final corner once more, and Floyd has gotten right back behind Toad. So Toad may have a tire advantage, but I have to wonder, is he losing grip? Is he losing confidence in the car now that the track is starting to dry up? The lap times are starting to come up, and that means you're going to be putting a lot more stress on these wet weather tires a lot faster. If that thing is not set up well to take that kind of extra stress on the wet weather tires, you will start hemorrhaging time. Unfolded to the inside of Toad, side by side as they go through turn number 1. This time, with the track now drying up, the outside line is not the way to go necessarily. Unfolded kept it side by side through all turn 1. Now they come onto the back straightaway. They're not side by side this time. Toad holds station, Unfolded is right behind, but Unfolded has a better time putting the power down. Toad is still in the car though that has a straight line speed advantage, but Unfolded doesn't care. He has the draft. He wants to look to the inside. Toad is squeezing him down, but Unfolded has his nose there. They make contact once, twice, going into the braking zone. Unfolded on the inside. Can he make the move sick? They're side by side on the way out. Toad puts the power down. They're still side by side. Now they go underneath the Corvette bridge. Into turn number 6. Unfolded gets the move done, but he slides wide on exit. Toad is going to cross him over on exit. Now he's on the outside again to turn 7, and he'll get the position back as Unfolded slides the dodge from the rear to the front. And now Toad goes back in a second and opens up the gap on Unfolded by about 15 feet. Nose to tail once more as he goes through the carousel. Unfolded closing in on Toad once more. Mav goes ahead and pits. He'll fall back to the 12th position. So a lot of drivers farther back in the field throwing on the drier tire compounds now, just hoping that by doing so they can get a significant pace advantage. Here comes Unfolded to the inside of Toad. It'll be a drag race once again. The Dodge may have a straight line speed disadvantage, but Toad is just not handling well as the track is drying up. Unfolded is going to complete the overtake as they go down in Cannon Corner. But again, he slides wide on exit. Those cars are sliding their rear tires around, but Toad has just enough grip. He's able to put the power down, but he can't complete the pass. Unfolded goes deep. He slides right in front of Toad, and he's by. Unfolded ahead of Toad. Your leader, NDL Dindoo, has elected to pit. Unfolded stays ahead. Now he's going to jump in and pit at the last possible moment, but Toad wants to stay out for another lap. All right. So now the fight breaks up just a little bit here at the head of the field. Also, NDL CJ is pitting. NWR Scorpio is pitting. Is HYR Warner, who is back there in 6th, going to pit this time? That's the next question. Toad is going to go 1 lap farther than everybody else, trying to stretch out the life of the wet tire so that way he can have a overall tire delta advantage going forward. And I do have to ask, what of Hyatt Cranky? What of this driver here, ZR Villa? He waited so long to change tires, but he has had 2 laps on the drier compound tires. Is he going to end up with any kind of significant advantage right now? We see Hyatt Cranky going ahead. He'll jump into the pits. I imagine Zula is going to stay out because Zula has already made his pit stop, I believe. No, he's not. He's still on the wet, so Zula is actually going to stay out a lap as well. So Zula's on the same strategy as Toad, trying to get a bit of a tire advantage. Where is Villa going to end up? He went so long earlier. Where is he going to be? Villa goes down the straightaway. Berkey is in the pits. Hyatt Cranky is in the pits. But everyone else is long gone, so for staying out for so long and cutting out a pit stop, Villa is only going to end up in 9th, and now he is going to have a tire disadvantage through the rest of this race. So it is a bold strategy, but it just did not have any shot of working out. Okay, real quickly, I want to look at this fight for what is currently 5th position. We'll say 5th position, honestly. This is CJ versus Scorpio. Well, no, this is Scorpio versus Zula. I'm sorry, CJ is actually pulled away. Scorpio trying to stay ahead of NWR Zula. Not really much of a fight, just more of a stalking battle. Meanwhile, at the head of the field is Toad. He has gone 1 lap farther on these wet weather tires than anyone else. He is trying to look at getting a positive tire advantage, basically, for the rest of this run. He comes out of the final corner. Yes, he will pit this time by. So Toad comes in the pits. Remember, he was right in 2nd, fighting with EXR Unfolded, but Unfolded has pitted a lap earlier, and so has Dindu. Now, Unfolded pitted a lap earlier in the first round of pit stops, so it was wet to wet, and Unfolded had a very slight rack position advantage, but that was immediately eaten up and went back in Toad's favor as Toad had a tire advantage. How is that going to work out now? As they come onto the front straightaway once again, we will easily see Dindu complete the run. He'll get by without any issue. What of Unfolded? Who is your driver in 2nd? Toad is still on pit lane. All right, it looks like he's just coming out of pit lane now. You should see him on the right side of the screen. And Unfolded has opened up a gigantic gap on NDL Toad. So yes, Toad has a tire advantage, but Unfolded has a gigantic amount of track position now over the Aston Martin. NWR Zula will be the last driver to take off these wet weather tires as he will go ahead and throw on a pair of slicks. And this is going to drop him well down the order. ZR Villa, after skipping an entire pit stop early in the event, he is going to cycle out in what will be the 8th position. But again, the big thing that he has to struggle with is that he is at a massive tire disadvantage for the rest of the race. And now we are anticipating the rest of this stint to be clean and green to the end of the day for stint number 1 here at Road America. Real quickly, for those of you who have not been with us for the entire race, or for those of you who have been here and there, our top 3 drivers qualified: NDL Dindu, NDL Toad, and EXR Unfolded in that order. Toad and Dindu had a bit of a fight for the first lap with Unfolded right there. All 3 of them traded the lead several times, but it was Unfolded who led lap 1. Then it was it was Toad who led lap 1. He led lap 2, but then Dindu took the lead, and it took a lot of fighting, but it was gradually able to pull away from EXR Unfolded and Toad. Toad and Unfolded have been in a prolonged fight for the 2nd position for the majority of the day. Unfolded has a bit of a track position penalty. Toad has generally been slightly better than Unfolded on overall strategy during the wet weather, but about 10 minutes ago, the rain stopped and the track dried up, and you've seen everyone go ahead and make pit stops. NWR Zula was the last driver to get off of the wets. Then this driver, ZR Villa, skipped pit stopping at all in the entire rain stint. He did not change tires until the track started to dry up. So he has cut out a pit stop, but he has lost a massive amount of track position in the process. We also had a bit of an incident where NWR Zula was fighting with another driver. I don't remember who it was. I do apologize. I think it was Berkey, but then Hyatt Cranky came in and missed the braking zone and ended up hitting them, and both of them went off circuit down in turn number 5. That has been the closest thing we've had to a serious accident today. Also, NWR Zula had a few moments where he slid off earlier in the event. No, I'm sorry, Hyatt Cranky. Well, and that is Mav, who very nearly loses it in a straight line. That's interesting. Most of the everyone is still on the lead lap right now, and also no one has had any destructive damage in any accidents yet as P1R Ultra is coming into the pits. Okay, so he actually went even farther on the wets apparently. He was at 71% before pitting, so he went very deep on the tires, and he was still in 8th position. I'm not really sure what Alto's strategy was going so deep. No, that's his second stop. So yeah, so Alto went way deeper than Villa, and I just completely missed it. And this is going to cycle Alto not quite to last, but he's going to be next to last at this stage of the event. All right, so NDL didn't do, EXR unfolded, and NDL towed. At the head is NDL didn't do. Him and EXR unfolded pitted at roughly the same time. 33% left in Dindu's fuel tank right now. For EXR unfolded, he has 18% left in his fuel tank. But the Dodge seems to have a relatively large fuel tank and burns through his fuel a little bit slower than what NDL didn't do does. Then you have NDL Toad, who is a little bit more distant in 3rd position right now. He is at 30% left in the fuel tank. He has a tire advantage, but a track position disadvantage right now. The big thing we're really curious to see is that will Dindu lose track position to Unfolded and Toad as this goes on? Sadly, in these races that are time set, we do not have the ability to give you a good delta. But what we can do is this. All right, I'm going to count the amount of seconds, roughly, from our leader going out of frame here to 2nd place going out of frame to 3rd place going out of frame, and you can kind of use that to guess what the time distance is between our top 3 runners right now. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 6.5, 9, 1010. All right, so the gap is roughly 6.5 seconds between Dindu and Unfolded, and about 9.5 between Dindu and Toad. There's 4th place, NDL CJ. So your top 3 points contending drivers are right in the top 4 positions right now. And then you have NWR Scorpio hanging out in 5th position here. You should see HYR Warner coming by in a bit, but the top 5 have kind of been in a zone of their own, and even amongst them, Dindu, Unfolded, and Toad have really been head and shoulders over the rest of the field. There goes Warner, the highest rank of all of the Mustangs. Again, 4 different Ford Mustangs, the most popular entrant in the field, but none of them are running higher than 6 at this stage of the race. None of them have gotten to a position higher than 6 on merit and pace today. EWR Berkey. And there's P1R Alto. That's the last of the Mustangs. And then you have to wait a long time. I'm not even going to stay at this angle for that long, but you have to wait a long time until you see this driver, Beast Baller, who is last in the field right now. At the rate this is going, he's going to go a lap down in about 20 minutes, I imagine. But he's keeping the car clean and penalty-free right now. Meanwhile, at the head is still NDL Didn't Do, followed by EXR Unfolded and NDL Toad. The field has mostly spread out at this stage of the race. We're going to go ahead, knock out an ad break, and when we come back, we may see drivers start to make their first round of dry-to-dry pit stops here at Road America. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you back to Road America. Excuse me. An interesting thing I just checked, if we go ahead and ride on board with your race leader, Indiel Dindu, right now, the track is not completely dry, while there are some corners where you can see a dry racing line has formed, like this one here. It is not perfectly dry, it's more of a slick, kind of greasy dry, as we see ZR Villa finally making his second stop of the day. The big thing to consider is that the actual forecast was not rain and then immediately dry. In Forza, the driest setting you can have. Alright, well, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for that bullshit. Twitch decided to just completely crash on me. Ironically, I've not had any issues with Twitch crashing on my broadcasts for a long time, but this is the second time it has happened in about 9 days. I hope this is not the start of a negative trend. But anyways, as we return back here to Road America, as I was saying before everything crashed, we are not in properly dry conditions yet. We are in what is something called drizzle, which means that the parts of the track which are off the ideal racing line will stay wet. But on the ideal racing line, you're not wet, but you're not dry. You have more of a greasy feel to the circuit. You're not going to have ideal grip, but you'll still be faster on the soft tires than the wet weather tires. So right now, this is not the fastest you're going to see everyone running today, but the majority of the field is all spread out. There's only really one fight still happening on track, and that is between these two drivers here, ZR Villa and NWR Birchie. Again, I do apologize, and it looks like EXR Unfolded is pitting out of second position, so he's going to pit a lap earlier than Dindu. Togue is going to go a lap longer, which we know he was going to do already. And Twitch is really acting up because now I had to restart the broadcast. They're going to mandate that I run an ad break here, even though I don't want to. I do apologize, but everything with Twitch is really giving me fits right now. Please stand by. Well, come on, Twitch. If you're going to take control of the stream from me, do it now already. Okay, maybe they're not going to take control away from me. We'll see. Alright, well, anyways, Indiel Dindu has finally elected to make what will be his third overall stop out of the lead. Indiel Togue, though, is staying out. He's trying to push his tire advantage, but he's already at 57%, and he's at 4.6% in the fuel tank. One question I have, will Togue have enough fuel to make it back to pit lane on this lap, but he is pushing a overall tire advantage right now. Dindu is pit, CJ is pit, Scorpio is pit. Also, where is EXR Unfolded going to end up in relation to Dindu? Well, here's your answer. Dindu is already out of pit lane. Is Unfolded any closer? Well, Unfolded has definitely closed down the gap between himself and Dindu, but now Unfolded has a bit of a track position advantage by virtue of pitting a lap earlier, but he is now at a tire disadvantage going forward. We are a little bit more than halfway through this run. Remember, unlike Tora, which only runs to an hour and 40 minutes, and then everyone stops in this series, you race until that race timer is up. Forza Motorsport 8 servers and data collection is normally solid enough that you can rely on end-of-race calculations, and that's what this series does. So this is a proper 2-hour run here. So they still have almost half of the event to go. They are not only about half an hour from the end, they still have nearly an entire hour to go. We look at the distance penalties right now. Togue, who is leading, has no distance penalty still, but the question is fuel. Will he have enough fuel to make it back to pit road? It's going to be close. Look at how low that fuel number is. But I think he'll be able to do it. He should be able to put the power down and accelerate into pit lane without choking the engine out. Look at this, 0.2%, 0.1%, he is in. All right, well timed, although he really burnt up his tires. Well timed by Togue, mapping his fuel wear to his fuel life to the very 10th of the percent. But he's made it, he is in. So we know that Togue is going to end up losing the lead to Dindu here. The question is, where is Togue going to be in relation to Unfolded? Because Unfolded pitted a full 2 laps before Togue did. So Unfolded has had 2 laps on fresher tires than Togue. There goes Unfolded, and he is by. So Togue, who started second, led the first 2 laps, but has been fine for second all time since the race has gone dry or drier. It's not a true dry track, it's just kind of a drizzly track. It's a very greasy, kind of slick surface right now. But since the track has gone from being outright wet to kind of slick, it has really hurt Togue, and in this Aston, he has struggled more than the top 2 right now. All right, real quickly, I want to try and time the gap between first and second once more. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004. I think it's about 4¼ seconds. So EXR Unfolded is gradually wearing down the gap between himself and NDL Dindu. So as this has gotten to a greasy condition, it seems like Unfolded has gotten a slight advantage over Dindu at this stage of the event. In the same way, though, I will also say that Togue is also about the same distance from Unfolded as Unfolded is from Dindu. So yes, Dindu opened up a big gap in the rain, but now as the track is in drier grease, well, not dry, but greasier, kind of more of a slick conditions rather than outright wet, it seems like Dindu is struggling with the overall handling of the Ferrari, like what we have seen through the majority of the season, and his lead is starting to dribble away right now. It's not going away fast, but there is enough time that Unfolded could end up catching and overtaking Dindu on track. Might be the same for Togue. The other thing to consider is that Dindu, Unfolded, and Togue are all on radically different tire strategies right now. Dindu is kind of in the middle. He's not doing anything crazy. Unfolded is pitting nice and early, trying to maximize the advantage on fresher tires. Togue is trying to go deep and hoping to cut out a pit stop later in the event right now. So we have now turned into a bit of a big slide by Dindu going through turn 1. But we are now looking at a bit of a strategy wild card here at this stage of the event as they come out of turn 3. Also, just ahead of Dindu, that will be the Chevrolet of Beast Baller. Beast Baller is one of only 4 drivers on track who still do not have any distance penalties. And again, if you can finish a stint with no distance penalties, you do get a point for your team in the overall SEC championship. And Baseballer has actually been relatively good at making that happen, at bringing home results with no time penalties. So while his overall pace has not been great throughout the majority of the SEC series, he has done a good job bringing home extra points here and there. Now we see NWR Berkey and P1R Alto farther back in the grid going ahead and making pit stops here. And Baseballer just pulls off circuit to let Dindu by. It looks to me like we stopped seeing even a hint of drizzle. It seems like the circuit has completely dried up at this point. And if so, we're likely going to see the track stop being slick and start going to properly dry, and we'll start seeing actual lap times. This is where everyone's lap times will go up. Another thing to consider is that as everyone's lap times will go up, they'll also start burning fuel a little bit faster. So the fuel consumption rate, you'll have to put more fuel into the car to properly compensate. And that perfect number earlier that NDL Togue calculated, where he was able to get to exactly 0.1% just as he came into the pits, it will be harder for him to hit that number because he'll start consuming a little bit more fuel lap on lap. So do keep an eye on that, because once you're faster and you're able to be a lot more aggressive on the fuel, naturally you're going to burn through your fuel load even quicker here. The majority of the field has all gotten nice and spread out at this stage of the event. The big question is really just a matter of strategy and where your tires are going to be and how many pit stops and what track position you will have in the final 15 minutes of these races. NWR Scorpio, highest rating of the Chevys, and it is actually turned around that ZR Villa has now cycled up into the 6th position despite having made an extra stop already. The thing is, again, they are at a significant tire disadvantage, and they have been trying to push their car to try and negate that tire disadvantage as this is going on. So while right now Villa is in 6th, he is likely going to be pitting on this lap or next lap, and it will compromise his advantage, and he will fall back down to maybe 9th or 10th. I will give Villa complete credit for trying to make this work, but it's just honestly not been a winning strategy. He's just been trying to dig deep to pull himself out of the hole he has dug himself into right now. HYR Warner has been your highest running Mustang for the entirety of the day today, looking to potentially come home in 6th position, but he does not have much distance overall compared to our top 5, and honestly not even compared to our top 3. Real quickly, we look at NDL Dindu. He's at 34% wear on that left rear. We look at EXR Unfolded. He is at 42% on the left front. So here's a little bit of an interesting thing. Dindu still seems to be wearing the rear tire faster than the front tire. So Dindu's setup may prioritize a higher downforce level on the front and a lower downforce level on the back. So Dindu is not going to be feeling a lot of change when it comes to the handling of his car. EXR Unfolded, though, is going to be dealing with a lot more handling change. He now has to back up the corners and take a little bit more cautious lines going through as he is burning up his front tires. Now we look at 3rd place, NDL Togue. What is he looking at this stage of the event? He is burning through his front tires faster than his rears as well. So Dindu is burning through the rears faster than the fronts, but 2nd and 3rd, Unfolded and Togue, are burning through the fronts faster than the rears. Typically, drivers will prefer to burn up your front tires faster than your rear tires. Not always, but typically that's the way it is. But I have to wonder, is it a setup preference for Dindu, or is it just the way that the car handles, or is it just the way that he's set up because he is running a setup that was really highly optimized for a set of conditions that have not been replicated today? If you will notice, as you look at NDL Dindu's car, he's got one of those classic drag strip setups where the rear of the car is slammed to the ground and he is basically grinding out the back of the rear diffuser on the circuit, and the nose is kind of lifted up. That setup gives you a lot of initial acceleration coming out of the corner and gives you good straight line speed grip, but this kind of setup can also cause a lot of handling issues, and that coupled with rear tires that seem to be wearing faster, I do think that Dindu is losing ground at a nice steady rate to EXR Unfolded. Again, I just don't know how this is going to turn out because it is still looking like EXR Unfolded may have to make an entire extra pit stop that Dindu may not have to make. And while Togue is trying to skip a pit stop as well against Dindu, I don't know if there's enough time for him to do so, and he is at a significant track disadvantage. As the stint has gone on, he has continued to lose time to NDL Dindu and EXR Unfolded. Alright, we're going to knock out an ad break here. We'll be back shortly at Road America. 45 minutes left to go here in the stint. Alright, we want to welcome you back here to Road America. Real quick, just for a little bit of points championship context. Points are awarded from first all the way down to a 20th result in this series, but we only have 13 drivers running in this stint right now, so every team that is entered, assuming that they run all the stints, are guaranteed a minimum of 17 points in today's event. Winning is 40 points, second is 36, third is 34, fourth is 32, and fifth is 30. So realistically, if you can win this stint, it will help your team out massively when it comes to the championship. And again, leading the championship right now is the team that has NDL Wheat, NDL Wawa, and NDL Pipes on it right now. And when you look at it at the moment, when it comes to NDL, none of those are on NDL Dindu's team. Dindu's team is the team that includes NDL Hot Dog and NDL Micro. They have 121 points. They are basically 31 points out of the lead coming into today's event, trying to close down on your leader, which is the team of Beats, Wawa, and Pipes, which do not seem to be running in today's event. Reminder, second in the championship is a team of Cavatro, Togue, and Avocado, and Togue right now is running down there in third position, so not going to gain a whole lot of points. So realistically, Dindu could be putting together a run strong enough to vault his team into serious championship contention against these drivers. And then you have NDL CJ's team, along with Drewski and Cosmic. They are currently setting at 85 points right now. So this could end up with a significant amount of impact in the overall championship result. Again, the ESV team, which has been, while they've not been the one leading the points in the races, they have usually been the team to beat, although they had that one disconnect at Silverstone that completely torpedoed their championship run. But with them not showing up in this stint at all, this is going to put them massively on the back foot to the end of the SEC championship season. Reminder, this is the 6th race out of 10. There are still 4 more Enduros left in this series. One for the month of August, one for September, one for October, and the last one will be in November. And that one, I believe, will be at Nürburgring Nordschleife. And Dindu and Unfolded are pitting at the same time. So Dindu is pitting at the same time as Unfolded. So that's interesting. So Dindu and Unfolded pit at the same time. CJ pits at the same time. But Togue is going to stay out a little longer. He's been losing track time, but he is trying to push a tire advantage. He's at 8.9%. So he'll likely pit at the end of this lap, and he'll have about 40 minutes left. If you split this race easily into 20 and 20-minute stints, Toad should only have one more pit stop. Scorpio pits, Zula pits. It feels like the majority of the field are all pitting at roughly the exact same time now. I imagine most everyone is setting themselves up to just run medium tires for about 20 minutes here, and then make a pit stop with about 20 minutes left, and then run mediums to the end after that. ZR Villa is likely the exception to that rule, as he is completely off on his own strategy. He can likely run this set of tires for another 10 minutes or so. Maybe a little longer. He's only at 17%, 18% wear. So Villa is kind of in his own zone when it comes to strategy right now. And here's an interesting thing. Scorpio is actually up in the same position as Warner. Scorpio taking damage or gone off somewhere. These two should not be running with each other. Well, Warner has stayed out, so that explains it. Warner has stayed out. Scorpio has already made a stop. So Warner is only here because of track position. He has not yet made his next round of pit stops. Again, Warner setting himself up for a 6th place finish, which would be the best result for a Mustang in today's event. Through the carousel once more. At this stage, 4 drivers still have no distance penalties right now. They are your top 2, Toad and Dindu, followed by Villa and Beastballer. And Toad has gone another lap on track, but I look at his fuel, he is at 4%, and he's at 62% tire life, but he is trying to cut out a pit stop. When he gets to the pit road, he will have about 37 minutes left in the stint. What is Toad trying to do? Is Toad hoping on short stopping? I don't see any way that he can make it to the end with no more stops after pitting unless he wants to throw on hard tires. Is he hoping that short stopping will work out in his favor? He does have a moderately significant advantage over Dindu, and Dindu has actually extended his lead on Unfolded at the stage of the event. Real quickly, I want to use this Corvette bridge camera, and we'll try to get an idea as to what the exact distance is between Dindu and Unfolded at this stage of the run. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007, 1000. Yeah, that's almost 8 seconds here, so Dindu seems to have swung the advantage back in his favor as the track is just about completely dried up at this stage of the race. Toad, does he have the fuel to make it back in the pit lane? He was really iffy on making it last time. His numbers are looking worse now than it did prior. Is Toad gonna run himself out of fuel coming into the pits here? He's at 0.5%. He still has to make a corner and then accelerate uphill. And he's off! He slides off! And Toad's sliding out of the final corner! And he's gonna run out of fuel on the run up into the pits, I think. He's out, but he has the momentum. It's not the fuel that's caught him. It's not the effect that he went off circuit in the last corner, and that's gonna torpedo any hope that Toad had of trying to get back ahead of Dindu on strategy. So Toad leads at the line. Also, this means that briefly Beastballer goes back onto the lead lap here, and Dindu goes back into the lead of the race. He's already at 18% wear, 19% wear though. Toad will fall back to a very distant 3rd place though. If anything, there may be a risk that this driver here, 4th place, NDL CJ, could end up catching Toad. Now, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. I think Toad has enough advantage over CJ that won't have an impact. But Toad, making his stop, he still has 36.5 minutes left. H-Wire Warner paying out 6 now. Warner and Villa based on just strategy, might have a bit of a fight between the two of them, trying to game out who out of the two of them are going to end up in the 6th position here to the end. They're on a bit of a strategy wild card between the two of them. We'll probably get a better idea as who's going to be in the better advantage once we get to the last 10 minutes of the race. But right now, there is a possibility that Villa, who's been running alternate strategy on top of alternate strategies all day, Villa might steal a 6th place result. And Zula, who has been struggling for a long time earlier in the race in the rain, he has recovered. He is in 7th position right now. I think 7th is the best that he can seriously aim for, though, sad to say. No one has hit a 1/10 of a mile worth of distance penalties at this stage of the race yet, though. That's honestly the most impressive part. That gap between 2nd and 3rd and Fulton Togue is so massive that even if Togue skips a pit stop, I don't see any way that he ends up being well ahead of Dindu. Again, Dindu, this team was 3rd in points coming into today's event. And the leader in points, I do not believe, are starting today's event. And 2nd in points is currently ranked 3rd on track. So Dindu could have a chance to put his team in position to close by about 6 points. But again, that assumes that his teammates can replicate this result. And that has been one of the other problems we've seen in the Ferrari camp. Dindu has been the strongest driver in the Ferrari camp, and the other 2 drivers in this car have had significantly less strong results throughout the season, while Togue's team, which also includes, I believe, Cavatro, have been one of the best teams throughout this series. All 3 of their drivers get relatively strong results. Alright, we're going to go ahead and knock out an ad break here. We'll be back shortly at Road America, trying to keep everyone up to date on what the strategies are playing out at here at this 4-mile circuit in the woods. That's like 26 seconds. There's just no way in hell that Togue can get to do it. Even if he skips a pit stop, he's going to have such a tire disadvantage. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Road America here. A little bit more than half an hour left here in Stint 1, and don't you worry, if you want to see more GT action, about 45 minutes to an hour after this stint will end, we will be covering Stint 2 here at Road America. So please feel free to get something, grab lunch or cook a lunch. If you're on the other side of the Atlantic, go ahead and make yourself some sort of early dinner before we get underway and start the broadcast for Stint 2 here. But this Stint 1 has been interesting enough. At the head of the field right now is Indiel Dindu. He has led the majority of the laps thus far today after starting the pole, but it's not been easy. Early on, he was under a lot of threat from the likes of EXR Unfolded and Indiel Togue, as those two spent a large chunk of the first 30 minutes of the race fighting between themselves. Dindu, although he had a few off-track excursions of his own, was able to open up a gap on the rest of the field and just kind of pulled away from everyone else a little bit. Got a nice little gap on the rest of the field, Now he has maintained the majority of the gap, actually adding to it. He is at last time I checked, he had about an 8-second advantage over Unfolded and a 26-second advantage over Indial Togue. Unfolded has been able to be a lot more consistent, a lot better on his tire life and on his strategies since the track has started to dry up. Togue is going really deep into the tire runs and the fuel runs, but he has had a few big off-track excursions. And while Togue is likely trying to set himself up to skip a pit stop, I just don't see it working out. Even if he does skip a pit stop, he will have such a massive tire disadvantage, it will completely derail him. One of the other drivers we're talking about is ZR Villa. Villa actually led laps earlier in the event. He skipped an entire pit stop early on, but hemorrhaged a massive amount of track position in the process. He has since then been running on radically alternate pit stop strategy compared to everyone else on track. He is doing a strategy fight against the likes of HYR Warner and NWR Zula. The three of them are all fighting for 6th position in this race, and it could go in any direction of those three drivers. But of those three, ZR Villa is the only one who does not have any distance penalties at this stage of the event. Other thing to remember, the ESV team, which has been one of, if not the best team for the majority of the season, not starting a race thus far today. So with ESV's entrance not making a start, that's going to derail their championship hopes. The top team, because there are 4 different NDL teams in this series, remember, and the top team in the series, they did not start either. Second place is the team that has NDL Togue on it, and then the third place team is NDL Dindu's. They are looking at trying to set themselves up to close down in the championship fight. So the championship fight is going to get really interesting going forward. We've only really had one significant incident earlier today, and that was, I believe, one of the BMW M4s locking up under braking and plowing into the back of another car, going down into turn number 5. No damage, everyone's able to keep going. It's been a relatively calm race, and since the track has dried up, we're not really seeing a lot of on-track mono-y-mono battles, although Villa has now ended up just a little bit behind Hayek Cranky at this stage of the event. We're right on board with Cranky looking back out his back towards CR Villa. 4 drivers have no distance penalties at this stage of the race. It is NDL Dindu, NDL Togue, ZR Villa, and Beastball. And remember, you will earn for your team an extra point for having a race with no distance penalties. And for Dindu and Togue, who are both fighting for that championship, it can help hold their advantage over the rest of the grid, but with both of them signing up to have no distance penalties by the end of the event, it's going to be a little bit frustrating for both of them. Toe's going to be like, I put all this work in and I didn't actually extend on Dindu at all, and Dindu will be like, I put all this work in and I didn't actually close by as much as I wanted to, but still, they're trying to open up their gap in the rest of the teams and the overall championship fight here. Higher ranking just lets Villa by. I'm not sure what was going on there. No damage to the car, but it looks like Cranky said, look, I'm not in a position to fight you, just go, and he just let off and let Villa go past. NDL CJ is the only driver to have hit a 1/10 of a mile of distance penalties at this stage of the race. That would be roughly 500 feet, a little bit more, but it's roughly 500 feet worth of distance penalties right now. Excuse me. For context, EXR Unfolded, he is looking at only about, one second, running a little bit of math here. He's looking at about 100 feet of distance penalties right now. And then these drivers, NWR Mav and P1R Alto, they're honestly looking at something a little bit closer to about 350 feet of distance penalties right now. So even less. So a lot of drivers have small amounts of distance penalties, but it doesn't look like we're going to see anything massively derail off the back of that. Okay, NWR Zula making his stop now. So right now, HYR Warner in 6th position. And he is well ahead of ZR Villa, and Dindu is making his stop. So Dindu is pitting out of the lead with 27 minutes left in the event. What is EXR Unfolded doing? He is staying out for a little bit longer, but he is at 62% wear on that right front tire. So the talk before this event started is that the medium tires can go about 15 to 20 minutes, and the soft tires can do about 2/3 of that. So about 10 to maybe 14 minutes if you're willing to push it. Could we see EXR Unfolded elect to go ahead and throw on a set of soft tires and make another pit stop going to the end here? What about Dindu? What is Dindu's strategy? As now EXR Unfolded will put 10th place NWR Mav a lap down. So Mav, Alto, and Berkey have all gone a lap down in the last few minutes. Although likely we will see Unfolded pinning very shortly here, and Unfolded is not completely gone. Oh, and Togue has gotten distance penalties. Well, that will hurt him in the championship. He still has a tire advantage though, and he can press a lot harder. And again, I wonder, is Togue trying to go and cut out a pit stop? He's not been very fast, and he's had some big off-track moments, but is he trying to cut out a pit stop? When is Unfolded gonna pit? I imagine Unfolded has to pit this time by. But again, if he pits this time by, he will have, when he comes out pit road, he'll have about 23 minutes left. If the soft lap's 10 minutes or a little bit more, it would be rough, but if Unfolded can just head down and do 5 laps, soft tires, another 5 laps, he could make it to the end on one more stop. Mediums trying to make them go 23 minutes is going to be really difficult. For Dindu, I think it's a lot more easier just do a stint on mediums and a stint on softs. But for Unfolded, if he's pitting this lap, which I imagine he will, he might be able to go soft to the end, but Unfolded has a massive distance disadvantage, track position disadvantage to Dindu right now. Togue is the interesting one, because Togue is setting himself up to maybe, when he makes his stop, maybe just go one more stint to the end on mediums. He's at 35% right now. If he's at 35% in the final corner, I'll try to give you an idea as to what his tire life is at the end of the lap. At 35%, well, he's at 36% actually on the left front. The front tires are going to have to watch. So, front tires, what is his front tire going to be like at the end of this lap? Oh, CJ is actually ended up ahead of Unfolded. Now, he's on a alternate strategy of his own, but CJ is going really deep on this run, and when he pits, he also could elect to just make one more stop, throw on mediums to the end, depending on how far he wants to push this run. He could do this lap and maybe one more, and we'll probably be able to just run mediums to the end. It would be tough, but he could probably run mediums to the end. Or he could pit at the end of this lap and do what Unfolded is going to do and just do soft to the end. Could we see CJ end up clipping Unfolded and stealing third place from Unfolded at the end here? That would vault CJ a little bit closer in the championship fight, although that team has not had great results for the majority of the season. They would need to dig a lot deeper, but still, anything can help. Anything can help. Remember, there are still 4 more events after this is over. Looking at Togue once more. Right front was at 36. He's already at 40%. And we're not looking at what his tire life is at the line. We're looking at what it is as he exits the final corner. He's at 41 already, so he's already put 5% on. He's going to be at about 6 or 7%. Yeah, he's burning through about 6.5% of tire life in a lap. So you do the math. He's likely running softs right now. But if he's running softs right now, he's going through 6.5% a lap. And a lap here is 2 minutes. 5 laps would be 10 minutes. Would get you to 30%. But no, maybe he's running mediums. If he's burning through 6%, if he's running on, if Togue is running at 6% a lap, and a lap is 2 minutes, so that means 4 minutes, you burn up 12%. 8 minutes, you burn up 24%. 16 minutes, you burn up 46%. Whatever tire Togue is on right now, he will likely only need one more stop. Dindu assuming he's running the same tire compound to the end. Dindu's gonna have to make another stop. Unfolded. If he's on a harder tire compound, Unfolded might be able to cut out a pit stop here. But he's got a significant track disadvantage right now to Dindu. And you also have to worry about CJ, who's almost mirroring him on strategy, and CJ has a track position advantage. Togue is kind of the wild card here, because once Togue pits, it will likely be his final stop. He won't have to pit again. He's at 20% in the fuel tank, still hasn't hit 50, and he has routinely been going into the 60% range. If he wants to just push to 50%, he could pit with like 18 minutes left, throw on a set of medium tires, not have to worry about pitting to get to the end. Togue stays out another lap. What if Dindu? When is he gonna make his final stop? I will admit, we spent so much time early in the race in the rain that I kind of lost track of the wear rate for most of the drivers' tires here, especially considering that both soft and medium tires are viable options in this series. And Dindu has not chosen to run the... well, I shouldn't say that. We don't know what tires most of these drivers are running right now. Excuse me. Alright, what we're going to do is we're going to keep our eye on NDL Togue here. He's at 51% tire life. I'm dealing with another round of technical difficulties. This stream has been plagued with technical difficulties, and I do apologize for that, but we will be back shortly here at Road America. Hopefully, we will see Togue make his next pit stop, and if not, well, we'll at least be able to get an idea. I'm going to try and fix these issues. I'm sorry. Bloody control. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Road America. We're going to stay with you here to the end of this run, but check this out. First and second, just about on top of each other. Dindu has caught Togue just about on track, but tire life is going to be the big deciding factor. Togue still can keep running for a little bit longer. Well, not much longer. Dindu can keep running longer, but still has another pit stop he's going to have to make. But Dindu has just about caught Togue here. So the gap at the front has completely collapsed. So Dindu runs right behind Togue. He's caught up to the rear bumper. Could this be the fight that decides this race to the end? Dindu has a slight tire advantage. He goes to the inside. He's by. Toad doesn't even attempt to put up a fight. The tires are too cooked for him to do so. Who elects to pit this lap? Dindu powers out of the final corner. He's going to stay out on track a little longer, and Toad is going to stay out as well. Are they both trying to run extra time? Again, if you pitted now, you could run medium tires to the end. What of Unfolded? Unfolded is a lot farther back here in third position. His tires are at 22%. Is Unfolded going to try and run on these tires to the end and use that to clip Toad and Unfolded here? As our top two are actively fighting for position, but I say actively, Toad just has nothing. Toad is just completely fallen off a cliff here, pushing these tires too far. He's at 62%. He has to pit this time by. And the big problem for Toad is that he's kind of in a less severe scenario compared to what Villa was in earlier. He's pushed his tires so far, but in the process, he's lost a ridiculous amount of track time, has ended up in an overall deficit to NDL Dindu. Dindu powering out with turn 6, and he's just walking away. It's not like Dindu has perfect tires or anything. This a small tire advantage late in the run can seem like an absolute gigantic one. And again, Dindu has a setup that is bringing his rear tires up more than his fronts. This is the other really interesting thing to remember. He's at 51% tire wear, as you see Villa and Zula pitting farther back in the grid. So where that fight for 6 now swings as Villa and Zula are pitting. Warner still out on track right now, coming out of the final corner. He's at 18% wear. Is he going to be able to clip Villa and Zula? I think so. I think he's just going to be ahead of them both. He'll have a tire disadvantage, but he'll have a massive track position advantage over those two. Villa has just now gotten out pit road, and Warner is already by. Villa has no distance penalties, though, and he's going to have fresher tires. If he maintains no distance penalties, he might be able to close on HYR Warner. We'll have about, let's see here. 1/100th of a mile, 1/10 of a mile is 50 feet. No, I'm sorry, 1/100th of a mile is 50 feet. And Warner is looking at 4 times that. So like 200 feet, I believe. He's gonna be looking at about 250 feet worth of a difference. Actually, I have a calculator. I can just use that and just calculate it with that. As Toad finally pits, Dindu is actually pushing a little farther, but Toad finally pits with about 14 minutes left here. Uh, 232 feet is the gap, is the amount of distance that Warner is going to lose to Villa. So if Villa can get within that distance of Warner, he might be able to clip Warner for 6th position. And mind you, Warner is not that far ahead of Villa. So while Warner has been the best performing Mustang all day, has been setting himself up to bring home a 6th position, Villa, who has been running alternate strategy on top of alternate strategy, could end up really pulling off a driver of the day performance here if he can clip Villa for a position. Meanwhile, at the head of the field, NDL Dindu has yet to make what we believe will be his final stop. He is at 61% wear on that left rear. Already, Toad has made his stop. Unfolded is in 2nd position right now. He has distance penalties he'll have to deal with, but he's going to try and push these tires to the end of the race. Once Dindu pits, he's going to end up behind Unfolded, but will he have enough time to try and get back ahead of Unfolded here on circuit? Our leader going through turn 1, the final turn right now. The gap between Unfolded and Toad is absolutely gigantic, and while Toad will have a tire advantage that can push it to the end, I just don't see any way that Toad can close in on Dindu or Unfolded here. Dindu already pulled away from Toad on circuit, and while Toad currently has a tire advantage, he's going to have a track position disadvantage. All right. How much of an advantage can Unfolded pull? Remember, he is in the Dodge Viper. The Dodge is really good in the corners, but he's been burning up that left front tire, and also this car is absolutely awful in a straight line. If he is caught, the race is likely over. Not to mention, Unfolded has a distance penalty. Dindu still has no distance penalty. Dindu finally coming out of pit lane. Where's Toad going to end up in relation? Toad is accelerating down the straightaway, but already Dindu is coming down into turn number 1, and Dindu is maintaining his advantage over Toad. So the fight is going to be Dindu. Irate at Twitch. I cannot express how irate I am right now at Twitch. This is the second time that the stream has cut off. I don't think I've done more than like an hour. This is the most aggravating thing I've ever dealt with. I do apologize for this. Ugh. What is your bloody problem, Twitch? Anyways, less than 10 minutes left. Unfolded has to just stay about 105 feet ahead of Indiel Dindu to win this stint, but Dindu has no distance penalties and he has much fresher tires. The gap is only going to continue to close. The worst part is that I can't just straight upload this stream to YouTube now. I'll have to download these and edit them together in a video editor, and then export that to YouTube, and that's going to crush. I apologize. I know it's a Twitch problem because if it was an Xbox problem, this game, which requires you to be online all the time, would have disconnected me. But no, it's just Twitch is acting up something fierce right now, and I do apologize for that. Toad finally gets by 10th place NWR Mobs. But he is nowhere close to Dindu and has a massive disadvantage in tire life. Unfolded continues to lead. But what is that left front tire going to look like at the end here? You can visibly see that Dindu is closing. We're going to use the points of interest camera to help you gauge what the distance is. $1,001, $1,002, $1,003, $1,004, $1,005, 1006, 1007, 1008. It's about an 8-second gap in favor of Unfolded. If you can close, you would need to close by a little bit more than a second lap to pass him on track. But again, Dindu does not have to overtake Unfolded on the racing circuit. He just needs to get within 105 feet of Unfolded and can use the track, he can use the distance penalties to leapfrog Unfolded here. there's third place Toad, but Toad with his own time penalty is not going to be in contention. I really do like the points of interest camera here. It's just that the lap is so long, I can't just use them casually. The fight for fourth is pretty much resolved. NDL CJ is easily going to take home fourth. Him and Scorpio have roughly the same amount of distance penalties, a little bit more than 1/10 of a mile each. But CJ has a massive track position over NWR Scorpio right now. The fight for sixth, ZR Villa has it. HYR Warner wants it. But Villa has no distance penalties, and Villa has tires that are burning up, but I don't know if he's going to have the fuel to the end. That is the big question for Villa. It may not be tires. Thank you. It may not be tires. It may be fuel for Villa. For Warner. Oh, and Scorpio's paying out fifth. Something's gone wrong for Scorpio. He is pitting in the last 5 minutes of the event. There's no damage to the car. But is this going to put him in position to be caught by Villa? He's going to be about 500, almost 600 feet down in distance penalty, and Villa is running him down in a straight line. Could a late pit stop made by Scorpio put Villa, who has been on a wild card set of strategies all day long, could have put him in position to steal fifth position here? Again, Villa, we don't know if he's going to have the fuel to make it to the end. He's got only 9% left. With 4 minutes left, that's 2 laps or so. I don't know if Villa's going to be able to make it to the end on the fuel that he has. And Warner has a lot of distance penalties, but he has less than the 2 drivers ahead, but his tires are just about cooked. So everyone, 5th, 6th, and 7th, are all in an equally bad position right now. So 5th, 6th, and 7th, all in a frustrating position. Scorpio has a massive amount of distance penalties and now has to deal with ZR Villa right behind him. Villa may not have the fuel to go to the end, and then Warner, who's a little bit farther back, has absolutely cooked his tires. This is going to get really hairy here in this fight for 5th. And that's not the only fight worth watching. Because again, with 3.5 minutes left, didn't do Joe, and Villa goes with a dive on Scorpio. They make contact. He runs Scorpio off track just for a moment. So what had been a fight for 6th that we've been watching hit and miss throughout the day has now morphed into a fight for 5th position. Scorpio holds it over Villa right now. Villa looks to the inside and going to the cake. You don't want to go side by side through there. Scorpio's into the dirt. He's sliding long ways through the dirt. He's completely sideways. Somehow he keeps the car from getting damaged. Yeah, no damage on that car somehow. What of Villa? Does Villa have the fuel to make it? He's at 6.9%. I don't know if Villa will have the fuel to make it in. His tires aren't looking good either, but will he have the fuel to make it to the end? And the gap at the front, Dindu is closing rapidly on unfolded. The car that you can see as we run on board second place, the car you can see ahead is unfolded. Unfolded needs to be about 10th. Yeah, unfolded. He basically needs to be about 105 feet ahead of Dindu. I don't know if Unfold's going to be able to finish 105 feet ahead of Dindu or not. We are closing down to the last 2 minutes of the run here. That gap is closing rapidly. Unfolded has burnt up the right front tire 64%. All of his tires are in the 60% range. And if Dindu catches him and gets the draft, he's going to absolutely destroy him in a straight line with a straight line speed advantage and a draft advantage. Less than 2 minutes. They won't even complete this lap, but it's not going to matter. Dindu's there. He's only about 200 feet out from Unfolded right now. 213 feet right now. As it stands right now, Unfolded would barely hold it, but the gap is shrinking massively in Dindu's favor. Under braking, Dindu is now within 100 feet of Unfolded. He's there. He's gonna get him. Get Dindu overtake Unfolded on the circuit. He's got to the rear bumper of the Dodge. The rear tires, the front tires, every tire on Unfolded car is completely cooked. It's a drag race as they go down the back straightaway for the last time. And Dindu will overtake Unfolded on merit, on track. And all the strategy means nothing in the world if you cannot fight back because your tires are cooked and your car does not have any straight line speed advantage. and Dindu immediately starts opening up and running away against Unfolded, and now he just needs Unfolded to stay right behind him, so Toad, who is in third, can't close, and Dindu can try and close the most for his team in the championship fight right now. What about this fight for fourth? For fifth, Scorpio has gotten back by ahead of Villa. Time, less than 30 seconds left. Scorpio has it. He's got a lot of distance penalties though. Villa is running in his draft. Does he have the fuel? He's at 2% left. He's gonna make it. It's Villa on these wild alternate strategies. He's gonna pull off a driver of the day material and put this Mercedes in a 5th place finishing position. 5 seconds left. 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Over. Plow. It's over. And yes, Villa has gotten 5th position, and in the championship fight, most critically, NDL didn't do. With his team, that was a very distant result in the points. They're gonna bring home the win here with a stint with no distance penalties. I can't believe what happened, but I find it hard to believe that with how spread out everyone was through so much of the day, how many positions swapped in the last 3 minutes. Also, credit to Beast Baller as well. While he still finished a lap down, he will get the extra point for finishing the stint with no distance penalties. We're going to try and reach out to our top 5 finishers and see what they have to say about their run today. All right. Oh, we're going to get one invite in. Unfolded, can you hear me? All right. In the party, is there a option to turn on and include your audio? All right, go ahead and hit that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we want to start our post-stint interviews here with our third place finisher, or our second place finisher, EXR Unfolded. Go ahead, include your audio. Fantastic run to the end, but it just did not work out by just mere hundreds of feet. What do you have to say about your run there throughout the entire stint today in that Dodge?
It was definitely tough. Toge made my life a little hard in the beginning. He was doing a good job holding me up and letting Dindu extend like over 1,500 feet of a lead. That was annoying, but luckily the strat at the end of pitting for mediums and going the whole rest of the way kind of worked. I think it would have been even closer if I just extended one more soft stint by a lap, because I was struggling on tires at the end, but it was super close. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I got really close there. A little bit of distance penalty is going to hurt as well. I do have to ask, who's taking over for this car in Stint 2?
It would be, well, Garma was originally scheduled for Stint 1, but unfortunately he can't race, so it's going to be me doing the first 2 and then Rusty the third.
All right, hopefully you can recover and maybe bring home an actual win in Stint 2. Great job out there, mate, taking it down to the last 2 minutes like you did.
Thanks. It was fun.
All right. I want to talk with our stint winner, NDL Dindu, real quickly. Dindu, go ahead, include your audio. You started from the pole, you led the most laps, you won. That's what the papers say, but we saw that race did not look easy. Go ahead, include your audio. What do you have to say about that run out there?
Yeah, it wasn't easy. It was really close at the end. But I think, just made it, and that's what matters. There's still 2 more stints as well. And I trust my teammates as well. They can carry us on, and maybe you can get the win today.
I do have to ask, what tires were you running to the end? Was it mediums or softs? Because I was under the impression soft tires could only go about 5 laps, but you seem to go a little farther than that. Were you running softs or mediums?
I was on softs, yeah. I didn't use mediums once.
I don't know how you made that work then, mate. That was incredible. Did you think that you were going to be able to catch Unfolded after making your final stop?
I was a bit worried, I won't lie. But I knew his mediums would drop off, so I knew I just had to focus on keeping it clean, staying consistent, and then at the end making the move.
You made a heck of a move, basically passed him in the last possible second on the circuit. Good job. I do have to ask, who's going to take over the Ferrari in Stint 2?
Micro is in on next stint.
All right, we'll definitely be looking forward to see what Micro can do in the Ferrari. Good job on the win. Thanks for jumping in and talking with us. And now I want to talk to the driver who I would argue is driver of the day, ZR Villa. Villa, go ahead, include your audio. I don't know how you did that. You went so deep on the first round of tires, lost so much track position, and somehow you cycled around and pulled out a 5th place result. What did you do? How did you do that? Include your audio, and please tell me what you did.
Thank you. No.
I don't know how you did that, mate. I watched you. You did not pit once for the first 40 minutes of the race. How in the world did you do that? It worked, mate. Seriously, that is the best drive I have seen in this game in years. I don't know how you did that, mate. 5th place, 5th, and no distance penalties at well, no penalties. I can't believe what you pulled off, mate. Who's driving the car in Stint 2? All right, well, we'll look forward to seeing how that turns out. Villa, thanks for jumping in, talking with us. That's driver of the day material right there. Best bloody stint strategy I've seen. Thanks for jumping in and talking with us. Yep. All right, and that will wrap up our coverage from Stint 1, but don't you worry, in about 40 minutes time, we will come back with the coverage for Stint 2 here at Road America. That one's expected to be dry, flag to flag, so get ready. We're going to see a true pace-based result then. But until then, I've been your host for today's broadcast, Stint. Thank you very much for joining us today. Farewell and goodbye.